Imagine a company that outperformed every single stock in the S&P 500 last year, yet most people have never heard of it. It's not Apple, Google, or Tesla. It's Palantir, a shadowy data analytics firm that's turning the tech industry on its head. Palantir's stock skyrocketed 340% in 2023, leaving tech giants in the dust. But here's the kicker. They don't make flashy consumer apps or self-driving cars. They're solving some of the world's most complex problems with data in a way that's completely unconventional. What makes Palantir so different? And why is their approach shaking up the entire tech industry? The answers might surprise you. You know what's funny? Everyone thinks innovation means making the next flashy app for teens. But Palantir, they're playing a whole different game, and it's mind-blowing. Picture this. Silicon Valley, 2003. The tech scene is buzzing with dreams of social networks and search engines. Everyone's chasing that sweet consumer app money. But Palantir? They looked at all that and said, "We're going to solve terrorism." I'm not even joking. Most people thought they were crazy. Who builds a company around government contracts? That's career suicide. But Palantir didn't care about conventional wisdom. They saw a massive problem no one was touching: data overload in intelligence agencies, and they went all in. They built this insane software that could connect the dots across massive data sets. We're talking Minority Report level stuff, but real. While everyone else was trying to figure out how to get more likes, Palantir was working on preventing the next 9/11. That's a whole different set of priorities. And get this, while Silicon Valley was all about move fast and break things, Palantir was like, we're going to move carefully and fix things. They focused on security and compliance. When developing their platform, they spent months on encryption protocols. You know, the kind of stuff that matters when you're dealing with data that could start wars. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This approach that everyone thought was crazy, it's paying off big time. Turns out, solving real complex problems is actually a pretty good business model. Who knew, right? Palantir didn't stop at government contracts. They started looking at how their tech could be applied to the private sector. Imagine you're running a massive corporation with data spread across hundreds of systems. Palantir comes in and says, we can make sense of all that. They're not just offering prettier dashboards, they're giving business leaders superpowers. But here's the thing that really sets Palantir apart. They're not afraid to take a stand. While other tech companies are selling their souls to the highest bidder, Palantir's got principles. They've turned down contracts that didn't align with their values. In a tech Wild West, Palantir's trying to be the sheriff, complete with a data-driven badge and a moral compass. And you know what? It's working. Companies and governments are lining up to work with them. Because in a world where data breaches and AI ethics are front-page news, Palantir's approach is looking pretty damn smart. Speaking of ethical stances, let's talk about how Palantir's moral compass guided them into uncharted commercial waters. In 2016, Palantir did something that would make most tech companies break out in a cold sweat. They decided to take their government-grade technology and apply it to the commercial world. This was like James Bond trading his Aston Martin for a forklift. Why was this such a big deal? Because Palantir had spent years building tech for some of the most secretive government agencies. Suddenly, they were trying to sell to Fortune 500 companies. It's like they were speaking two completely different languages. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of trying to be a one-size-fits-all solution, Palantir took a different approach. They said, let's build something custom for you. And boy, did it pay off. Take BP, for example. Palantir's Foundry platform helped them save a cool $1 billion. How? By optimizing their oil and gas operations, improving efficiency, and using predictive maintenance. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but how's this working out for them financially? Well, hold on to your hats, because this is where it gets really interesting. As of early 2024, about 40% of Palantir's revenue is coming from the commercial sector. That's up from, well, basically zero when they started this journey in 2016. But here's the kicker. They're doing this in a market dominated by tech giants like IBM and SAP. It's like David taking on not one, but multiple Goliaths. And they're not just surviving, they're thriving. So what's the secret sauce here? Why is Palantir succeeding where others have failed? I think it comes down to a few key things. First, they're not afraid of complexity. While other companies are trying to simplify everything, Palantir's like, bring on the chaos, we'll make sense of it. Second, they're laser focused on solving real problems. They're not chasing the latest tech fad or trying to create needs that don't exist. They're looking at the messiest, most complex issues businesses face and saying, yeah, we can fix that. And finally, they're taking a long-term view. This isn't about quick wins or overnight success. It's about building deep, lasting relationships with their clients. It's about creating value that compounds over time. But here's the question that keeps me up at night. How does Palantir manage to innovate at this level while operating under some of the strictest security constraints in the tech world? That's what we're going to explore next. And trust me, it's going to blow your mind. Innovating within constraints isn't just a modern tech phenomenon. It's been the driving force behind some of history's greatest breakthroughs. Think about the Apollo 13 mission. When disaster struck, NASA engineers had to figure out how to get the astronauts home using only the equipment on board. That's the kind of ingenuity Palantir's tapping into every day. Palantir's thriving in an environment where most tech companies would suffocate. They're not chasing blue sky thinking or trying to disrupt everything in sight. They're laser-focused on solving real-world problems that actually matter. And their secret weapon? The very constraints that others run from. When you're dealing with sensitive government data or critical infrastructure, you can't just move fast and break things. One slip-up could have catastrophic consequences. So Palantir had to get creative. They developed an insane ability to take massive, messy datasets and turn them into actionable insights. We're not talking about figuring out which cat video you're most likely to watch next. We're talking about the kind of insights that can save lives, prevent disasters, or uncover multi-million-dollar fraud schemes. But Palantir's not just innovating with their tech. They're rewriting the playbook on how tech companies should operate in high-stakes environments. And it all comes down to one word: trust. While most tech companies treat transparency like kryptonite, Palantir's leaning into it. They're openly discussing their role in controversial projects and laying out their commitment to responsible AI for all to see. This isn't about PR spin or damage control. It's about building long-term relationships with clients who need to know they can trust you with their most sensitive information. This focus on long-term partnerships is another key piece of Palantir's innovation puzzle. They're not looking to secure a deal and move on. They're building lasting collaborations that evolve over time. It's not about disruption for disruption's sake. It's about steady, relentless progress, making things better bit by bit, day by day. Now, you might be thinking, sounds great, but what about the ethical concerns? Well, that's where things get really interesting. Palantir's approach has allowed them to build strong partnerships with government agencies and commercial clients alike, but it's also put them squarely in the crosshairs of public scrutiny. So, here's the million-dollar question. Can a tech company innovate responsibly in high-stakes environments without compromising its values? Palantir's betting big that the answer is yes, but they're not shying away from the tough questions. Instead, they're facing them head-on, sparking a crucial conversation about the role of technology in our society. Palantir's walking an ethical tightrope that would make most tech giants break out in a cold sweat. Their software can process massive data and find mind-bending patterns. But that power comes with tough questions. Palantir's not just facing them, they're asking them too. What happens when your tech scares even you? Palantir's answer: build a framework for ethical AI use. They're baking ethics right into their products. They've even turned down contracts over misuse concerns. Who does that in Silicon Valley? While other tech companies dodge ethical questions, Palantir's leaning in. They're building trust through transparency and ethical governance. It's like they've cracked the code on responsible innovation. This ethical stance might actually be boosting their bottom line. They're not just a data broker or shady spyware company, but a software provider focused on data integration and decision support. Is Palantir setting a new standard for tech ethics, or will the pressure to compromise eventually win out? Building on Palantir's ethical stance, their financial performance is remarkable. We're seeing 21% year-over-year revenue growth in Q1 2024, followed by a 27% increase in Q2, outpacing industry averages. This growth spans both government and commercial sectors. Palantir's redefining innovation in tech, focusing on impact over hype. They're solving real complex problems that matter without viral apps or dance challenges. So next time you hear about a flashy startup, ask yourself, is it really innovative or just good at marketing? Because Palantir, they're proving that true innovation is about impact, not hype.